What's up, everybody? Welcome to Thursday. This is the NBA Strategy Show here on the Awesemo YouTube page, or if you are listening across the podcast network, thank you for that as well. He's Josh Engleman. I'm Adam Kaufman, and well, who busted on you last night, folks? It was tough. It was ugly. Talk about a night where the stars just disappointed. Sure, a lot of the, next tier guys went off. You had the DeJounte Murrays of the world go for 50 plus. But man, when you needed LeBron to come through, how about giving you a 30 burger on DraftKings? That was bad news. If you were banking on the Celtics having some sort of a response from what has just been a miserable last month plus, nope. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, both crap as far as what their fantasy output was. And that's just part of the list, Josh. Just part of the list. Scores way down last night.
Yeah, it didn't go well for me either. I thought I had the key pieces. I had a lot of Shea. I had a lot of Jarrett Allen. I had a lot of DeJounte Murray. I didn't have nearly enough of the other things that mattered. In particular, Danilo Gallinari going 10 for 12 from three. Didn't see that one coming at all. But look, nope. 6-gamer today, a little bit more manageable. Not really a ton of value out there quite yet, but we're on to the next one, I guess.
Yeah, Gallinari goes for 50-plus fantasy points. Just absolutely wild. Career night, because evidently the Celtics forgot that you're supposed to guard a guy from three. The Hawks, set a record. They had 23 three-pointers, most of the season have ever allowed in a game. So, yeah, I'm feeling great about that. Sabonis gives you 50-plus. You expect that. Gallinari, no. How about Jarrett Allen, though, going for 61? I saw people tweeting last night, Jarrett Allen, the new Andre Drummond, and as we know, Andre Drummond is a polarizing figure. He's not the best basketball player in the world, but as a fantasy player, generally, at least when he's been available, has given you around that total because he's always a 20-20 threat. Is Jarrett Allen the new Drummond, basically?
Well, he's the better Drummond for sure. He might be a lesser fantasy option, but a better NBA player.
That's not what we care about here.
I don't totally understand why Brooklyn gave him up.
Josh, you vanished. You vanished. You've gone to hiding again.
It's going to be one of those days. Get ready. This is going to happen a couple times, just so buckle up for it.
There he is.
Look, I don't understand why Brooklyn didn't fight to keep him. I don't get the sense that trade falls apart if Cleveland can't get Jarrett Allen as they just have to the Nets is just like, hey, we're going to keep him. That's it. This is how that has to be. I think that this trade still goes through. Now they have DeAndre Jordan and nothing else. So we'll see what the buyout market looks like for the Nets. Maybe they end up with Andre Drummond. Who the hell knows? We'll see where Cleveland ends up. But incredible game out of Jarrett Allen. And I think he's a really nice young center.
Couple hundred plus watching us early on. Appreciate you. We're here with you until 11 o'clock Eastern. So a lot of show to cover and obviously a half dozen games to get to on tonight's slate. Smash that like button. Hit the subscribe button. Up over 50,000 subscribers on the Awesemo YouTube page. We greatly appreciate each and every one of you. Taking a look here in the chat and just seeing notable things. Yeah, Tatum was awful. 4 for 20, says Mitchell. Tatum messed me all up, says 40 Luck. Gallo, such a surprise. LMAO, says Brian. Tatum killed me too. Ann Brogdon says, I am King Sosa. Mike Conley did me dirty, says Alex. A lot of you guys upset this morning, and I get it. I'm right there with you. Let's see.
You know who's not upset? Jeremy Idlebird. $100 super chat. Yeah, that's a big one, man. Finally got a win in the $450K fadeaway on 4 entries for $100,000.
Oh,
giving all the credit to just me specifically, too, from what I can read. I think that's what it says. I'm not sure. I'm not able to totally read it, but I think it just says Josh is responsible for all of this.
Well, let's see. Finally got a $450K fadeaway on 4 entries for $100K. Greatly appreciate your content, specifically Josh's, every single day. Loved the process every morning. Couldn't wait to say thank you. Wanted to make sure I came right to this show because of Josh. You guys are phenomenal. I look forward, especially you, Josh, to winning many more with your help. And Josh, I'm isolating you for that assistance.
I love it.
I mean,
I'm happy for you, man. 100K, man. That's fun. Buy something fun for yourself, for sure. And immediately, I don't know what you're normally playing in DFS. This seems like 100K is a pretty big outlier for you. I don't want to read into it. If it's not, then ignore me. But make sure you're taking $30,000 of that immediately and putting that somewhere else for taxes or getting rid of it and just like putting it to the side. Don't be left not having that tax money later on in the year. Don't blow the other 70 in DFS so that you don't have it any longer. Take 30 out immediately, put it in a savings account and hold that stuff until next year for tax time.
Yeah, this is important. He's not kidding about that. Giz says, hey, Josh. And this one actually says, hey, Josh, just wanted to say thanks for all your help, process, contenders, strategy, etc. Took down the $3 tourney on DK with a single bullet and won 1,500.
I love it. I love this kind of stuff, man. It's so awesome. Congratulations, Jizzball, I believe your name is. So kudos to you.
Yeah, I was going to go with just Jizz or maybe just Giz. But yeah, no, I mean, you put it all out there. It's a soft
J. I'm going to go yogging later, too.
Yeah, it's yogging. We should get an apartment together.
We should. By the way, we got to shout out Chris G in chat. The Superman combo. We did have someone notice.
Ah, there it is. See that? Boom. Strong. Super strong. How about Troy? Shout out to Josh. Boy, you got a fan club this morning, man. It's great, all these burners. Shout out to Josh recommending Jimmy Butler, pivoted from Tatum to Butler.
Nice. I didn't, not nearly as much as I should have. I had a lot of Tatum, so I wish I would have done exactly what you did.
Happy birthday, Adam. Josh, it's your birthday as well, says Dante. Well, see, I mean, when you wear Superman t-shirt together, you celebrate birthdays together. It's great.
2 weeks
Big day
ago,
ahead.
Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, mine was, where are we at? Yeah, mine was about a month ago. Well, whatever, same general time period. Let's talk about our sponsor, by the way, No House Advantage, who is taking a different spin on daily fantasy sports by offering player prop contests, of course, across the NBA, MLB, which is rapidly approaching, spring training underway, NFL, not too far away, PGA, you got an event this weekend, all for cash prizes. This exclusively peer-to-peer fantasy sports platform levels the playing field, makes it easier for you to win real cash compared with your traditional DFS sites. Now, the best part, you can join for free today. You heard me right. Join for free today. Download the No House Advantage app. Sign up using the promo code Awesemo. Get first match deposit up to $20. Beat your friends, not the house. Win big with player props today. So again, thanks to the crew at No House Advantage for being here with us, and thanks to all of you for hanging out with us. So get your questions, your comments, concerns, thanks to Josh, whatever it may be, in the chat. Also, you know, it's not just YouTube. You got the Awesemo Premium Slack channel. You can message us in there as well. We're keeping an eye on that. We'll tell you more about that with the Awesemo Plus tools as we go forward. But let's jump on into tonight's slate here. You got 6 games. We'll go game by game in a second, but just Alex, of course, Alex Baker, our own Awesemo, doing his projections on the site for some of the top expected performers, projected performers tonight. You can't ignore, you know, the studs at the top. You got Joker, Nick Jokic, Greek Freak, Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Beard, James Harden, Nick Vucevic, Luka Doncic, Joel Embiid, Russell Westbrook, Bradley Beal, Julius Randle, Kawhi Leonard, Kyrie Irving. You can go down from there. I mean, there's a lot of studs, obviously, at the top for, you know, a relatively modest slate. Who stands out to you the most?
That's a great question, because I'm not entirely sure that anybody truly just stands out for the studs. We don't have a ton of value yet on the slate, and so paying up is a little difficult. Like Emmanuel Quickly, probably the best value play on both sites, and there's not too much after that. So Giannis, Jokic, Harden, Embiid, Doncic, Vooch, these guys look really, really similar. There's relative to salary, they're only separated by basically like 4 or 5 points. I have Giannis as my top play. I have Nikola Jokic second. I have Giannis pretty clearly ahead of everybody else by about 1.5 points. But in the grand scheme of things, I think it's a little bit marginal. If we're legit looking at the top, Giannis would be my first recommendation. Jokic would be 2. And then depending on which site, it's either Harden on DraftKings or Embiid on FanDuel as my number 3.
All right, so that's some of the stuff to keep an eye on. Again, we'll go game by game here and tell you who stands out most, at least isolated to each and every team. And a fair reminder, we always tell you, just, you know, take what we say this morning here with a grain of salt. You know, same, you know, for going back to the process and, you know, early on to start your day, and really just as things evolve, because as we know, almost frustratingly so, but it's just the reality we all need to live in here, especially with late swaps and whatnot. You know, the real time to lock on in is some of the later programming later in the day with things that, you know, will constantly be evolving, guys getting ruled out, guys who you think are questionable or probable, even in some cases doubtful, getting ruled in. It's been a wacky year, and naturally minutes restrictions and all those things to keep an eye on. So is there anyone just that in mind? And we'll know those specifics obviously as the day goes forward. But right now, who are some of your bigger question marks that you are waiting for news on?
So it's not that anybody is a question mark in I want to pull the depth chart up. I want to make sure that I get it right and don't miss anything. It's not that he's a question mark, but the starting lineup for the Knicks is going to be very important. I'm expecting it to be quickly moving into the starting spot for Elfrid Payton, and Derrick Rose would then maintain his spot on the second unit and then likely close. So finding out the starting rotation for the Knicks is going to be very important as we work our way down. Jeff Green, Landry Shamet, both questionable. That's a spot that you really have to keep your eye on. Maxi Kleber and Kristaps Porzingis, both questionable. That has monstrous ripple effects through the rest of Dallas. I want to make sure that I'm not missing anybody else that's really important. I don't expect Drew Holiday to play. They don't play. Spurs don't play. Davis Bertans is questionable. I'm not sure that'll really open up anybody in particular for the Wizards, but really we're so low on value today that any sort of guys getting pulled out is really going to change up the makeup of the slate.
Let's start with our first game here. We've got Dallas and Philadelphia. And on the Mavs side first, of course, as we know, Luka's Luka. He disappointed a few nights back and then absolutely went ham against the Celtics. Again, I'm not upset about that at all. He's projected for almost 60 fantasy points tonight. Clearly the best play on the Mavericks side. Josh Richardson, obviously, is someone to think about right now. Kristaps is, one of those guys that you just need to monitor because, as we know, he has not been playing of late. Even if he does play, he's not necessarily the best play, but if he doesn't, certainly going to open up a lot of value on that Mavericks side. You were just highlighting some of that. We see that all the time. Some of the pay down options I don't necessarily love tonight as we talk right now, whether that's, Hardaway or Brunson, obviously the Kleber question mark, like you said. But again, the question with this team is, what does it look like in about 7 hours?
Yeah. So I have Porzingis and I have Kleber in. And if that's the case, I'm not like super heavy into anything coming out of Dallas. And I think most of these guys are going to be appropriately owned at that point too. I think that because it's a 6-game slate, more guys are in play. I do need to say that straight from the jump. But if we're really talking like logistics here for Dallas, Luka is the best play relative to salary, but he's also quite expensive. Happy to pay up for him, but I do prefer some of the other pay up options in comparison. They're just in better matchups. I don't mind getting to Porzingis. I think that I'd have about 10 to 15% of him if he were starting. The guy that I'm probably most interested in right now, and it's not because I think that he's any good, it's just another scenario where we have no value, so we need to squeeze it out in guys that are going to play big minutes. Dorian Finney-Smith is 4,300 on FanDuel. He's 4,500 on DraftKings, and he should play well north of 30 minutes, regardless of how this game shakes out for injuries. He will not look like a fantastic value play as we get closer to lock. The more guys that start being ruled out and bringing new value into the slate, the easier it is to get away from these guys now. But for the morning, we have to bet on minutes. So that's a guy that I'd be betting on at least a little bit. I will get to a bit of Maxi, particularly on FanDuel if he is in. He's only 3,900. That is a spot where you can squeeze out some value. I don't see anybody on the Mavs that are like lock button plays, nobody that you should be immediately looking at for a cash game. But a few of these guys are very much in play in the 10% range.
It's a little difficult to answer this only because, again, it's going to depend on value later in the day. But, when it comes to that top tier of studs, and obviously Luka's involved and, it's a guy who's going to be popular tonight. Do you see a scenario where you're playing multiple studs and not just, kind of those lesser studs, but I mean, top tier guys? Like a few nights ago, it was a popular build to put in, what was it? Harden, LeBron and Joker all in the same lineup. And then obviously building with value around that. Do we have that kind of night here with all these guys available?
I think so. Depending on how it all breaks though, if we don't get any value, it might be a real tough squeeze, but I think a 2 stud build is more than viable on both sites, just because I think it's really where the actual value lies. So if you can get to, a Giannis plus an Embiid on DraftKings, I really like that idea. If you can get to a Giannis plus, maybe like Kawhi Leonard on FanDuel at 9,700, I think that's perfectly reasonable. It's going to be tough, and there are going to be plays in your lineup that you don't like, but you're probably betting more on minutes in that case.
Andrew wants to know, is Josh Richardson too much on FanDuel at 4,700 going against his former team?
No, he's I think he's acceptable. I had him coming out of my sims around 11% of the time. We were projecting him for 16% ownership right now. He's certainly in play, but again, nobody from Dallas is someone that I see as a clear-cut option to have outside of Luka Doncic.
Looking at the Philly side here, because some people are already starting to shout out Ben Simmons, among others here. Obviously, you were talking about Joel Embiid. Embiid is certainly the top of the heap. And again, another guy projected for 50-plus fantasy points. You could, when it comes to value, pay way down for a guy like Shake Milton, get him involved. He's had some good games of late. I'm not really on the Simmons train, or Tobias Harris for that matter, but Embiid obviously makes a lot of sense. How about you?
Yeah, I like Embiid quite a bit. Showed up in my optimal 22% of the time on FanDuel. I think it's easier to talk about centers from a FanDuel perspective. We only have him projected for 6% ownership. That is nuts. I'm loading up on Joel Embiid if that's the case. I assume it's Jokic. I know is pulling in quite a bit more ownership. I will happily just go to Embiid at lower ownership in GPPs. The guy that I have my eye on most, and this is going to be the exact same story as Dorian Finney-Smith, I want to go to Seth Curry. He was playing like 33, 34 minutes a game. Missed this last one, but he's probable today. He should be right back. He's 4K on FanDuel. He's 5,400 on DraftKings, so you're not really worried about him there. But on FanDuel, I think he's one of the best value plays on the slate right now. He actually showed up in the optimal lineup 30% for me today. There's nothing else available for paydown options. So I'd rather play a lot more Seth Curry, who's could potentially shoot you into something good and unlock that additional stud that I need in my lineup, than sort of try to go to a balanced build today. So Curry is the guy that I'm actually looking at most on FanDuel. On DraftKings, it's Embiid, it's Shake Milton at 4,100, Ben Simmons at 8,700. That price tag is really nice. And he's not getting owned at all on DraftKings. Ben Simmons, 4.4% ownership on DK. I think you should be like 2 or 3 times that. One of my favorite plays on DraftKings as like basically a contrarian option for Ben Simmons. You don't see that often.
Just imagine if he could hit a 3-pointer or two, how the people would feel about him.
I don't think he needs to.
Is that just low-hanging fruit at this point? It's just cliche. This guy doesn't hit 3-pointers.
You know who also doesn't hit 3-pointers?
What's that?
People love him. Russell Westbrook. He might shoot him, but he doesn't shoot them well. One of the worst shooters in the history of the NBA. I would rather have a guy know that he shouldn't shoot them than be a guy that shoots them and they're poor shots for the team. Oh, by the way, Ben Simmons also has all NBA level defense. He needs to crank up the aggression.
He averaged a triple-double or two?
He could.
He could.
Probably not on this team, but he could. Yeah. You move him to some team that's going to play up and down. Like you move Ben Simmons. Perfect example. If you just flip-flop, if you just moved him to the Wizards and took Russell Westbrook's spot on that team, would you be surprised if he was averaging something close to a triple-double in the fastest team in the league? That is there for him. I love Ben Simmons. I am super, super, super buy high on Ben Simmons. There goes my camera, right? Yeah, I'm back.
Yeah, he's back into the ditch. Hiding again. All right, you've returned.
I don't know why it happens, but boy, does it happen.
Get access to all the great Awesemo Plus tools, content, everything for nearly every DFS sport out there with Awesemo Plus Weekly Pass. It is not even $30 a month, a week, I should say, $29.95 for the weekly pass. It includes full access to all the premium content tools on Awesemo.com, including player projections, which of course we've been talking about, ownership projections. Josh has been hitting that hard, our premium Slack channel, and so much more as well, including of course taking a look at optimal lineups and building yours out. We love it. Only looking to play NBA? Perfectly fine. We appreciate that as well. You can sign up for our new weekly NBA package. It is only $16.95 a week. That is it. So make sure you do that. You get tons and tons of great information. And our guy El Negro Loco hanging out in the chat and says hello to us, by the way. Music.
What up,
Chris,
dude?
is my favorite part of the show is his mic gets messed up and his camera turns off.
I don't know why the camera thing's happening. I've been recording all day today so far, still popping up. Hate it.
We got from Andrew, super chat. Morning, guys. Hope all's well. Have you seen Superman versus Super Scion something or other? Also, Adam, you need to get on the Josh train. Try the whole 30. What are we talking about here?
I don't know what the Superman Super Saiyan thing is. No clue whatsoever. But I have changed my diet up starting this week, at least for the next 30 days.
Why? Just want to see
because
if
I
you can
felt
do it?
I felt like a puffy, disgusting mess. So it was time for me to cut the carbs a little bit, lean back out. Put on a few LBs for the holidays, and I can see my stupid face in a camera every single day, so I can notice
the holidays or the pandemic.
Not the pandemic. So I started off the pandemic running like 3 or 4 days a week. I was lean at the end of the summer. It was really nice to be outside. I loved the pandemic. Outside of the fact that it was a pandemic for everybody,
sure,
it didn't really affect me all that much. I already work from home.
That part was good, yeah.
Well, it didn't change anything. I already work from home. My wife already works from home. We live in a place where the weather is usually nice. So I just spent a lot of time outside around my house, and it was awesome. I feel bad for the people that don't have that same experience, but I got to keep doing basically everything that I normally do, and then do more of the things that I actually like.
And with no expectation to leave the house. So it actually probably worked out even better for you.
Yes, because there's nothing I hate more than being asked to go do something. That's not a joke. That's dead serious. That's 100% serious.
We've talked about that one.
Yeah.
I get it. I couldn't function without carbs though. I just couldn't. The amount of carbs and nitrates that I eat on a daily basis, it's alarming.
Yeah, I've been really happy. Real big salad, some steak at lunch, soaking it all up in like Chipotle lemon mayo. It's been good.
Coming in hot. Tim says, super chat, grinding DFS for 6 years now, mixed results, but 1K net 4 of the last 5 days, 8K in February. Josh and SMM is the GOAT combo. Love you guys. Thank you.
Love it. Love it. Keep getting that money, everybody.
There you go. Keep chasing it down. All right. So what else you guys got going on in the chat? A lot of people starting to talk Toronto and all sorts of good stuff. Let's move on to our next game here. We have got Orlando and Brooklyn. Somebody was shouting out Vooch, Terrence Ross in the chat earlier. So staying with the Orlando side specifically. Obviously, Vooch, great play. Evan Fournier, especially with Aaron Gordon still out, is routinely in a solid spot. Both these guys projected for 5x value. You can pay down. Similar story, Michael Carter-Williams, Al-Farouq Aminu as well. Terrence Ross, I don't think, at least on DraftKings, looks as great of a play. I don't know. Who do you like best here other than, Vooch is kind of the no-brainer, but what about some of the others?
Yeah, so I'm not so sure I understand the appeal of this game right now. Maybe I'm just crazy. We have these guys aggressively owned on Orlando, on FanDuel. Vooch over 30%, MCW over 30%, which, my camera's gone again. I
wanted to just let it happen that time. I was going to let you do your thing.
That's fine. We'll deal with it. I can't take it any longer. We got to figure out what the issue is.
You know what? I think when it happens, we need a buzzword. It'd be too easy to just say like camera. Yeah, we need something else. What's our code word for you need to turn your camera on?
We'll see. We'll let chat figure that one out. It's probably not going to go well for me.
All right.
I put my answers in our NBA strategy syllabus already. Michael Carter-Williams is my biggest fade of the slate. I think he's dramatically over-owned, but I think this entire team is over-owned. I just don't have as much interest in these guys as the public does. I think Vooch is the best play coming out of Orlando, and I will absolutely have some, but I don't need to get to 31%. I would like to have half of whatever we get of Evan Fournier. I would like to have like a third of Michael Carter-Williams, less than half of Terrence Ross, less than half of Al-Farouq Aminu. I just don't see it here. I get it. It's a great spot because Brooklyn's defense is bad or whatever we're going to say today. The total is still here, only 227. It's not as if this is some like outlandish total. It is a better spot for Orlando, but I don't think it's this dream scenario. They're just not a very good team when they're giving so many minutes to Kem Birch, Dwayne Bacon, James Ennis, Chasen Randall, Chuma Okeke, Al-Farouq Aminu. None of these guys are any good. So I am not interested in loading up in Orlando in this spot, especially with the way Brooklyn's been playing.
Keep smashing that like button, folks. About 600 people watching here. We appreciate it. A couple submissions, by the way. Strammy says pudding, and someone else says Sasquatch. Those are the two suggestions for when your camera goes out. I feel like we can do better than that.
Although, I think we can find something better.
I might be drawn to pudding, at least for now. Either that or I'm hungry. How about on the Brooklyn side? James Harden has been electric. Kyrie Irving, same deal. Both those guys with Kevin Durant continuing to be out, as we know, are in great spots, projected for significant value. Both, Harden at about 60 fantasy point projection, Kyrie Irving 45 plus. After that, there's just not a lot. I mean, you can make a case for a DeAndre Jordan, for a Joe Harris, but I don't know. I wouldn't feel compelled to play either one of them. Thing is, Harden is priced up as he always is. Irving, he's sub 9K on DraftKings. I don't know if you're more inclined to get a guy like him in.
So the big question here will be whether or not Jeff Green plays. I think he is actually legitimately hurt. This is a questionable tag that is going to matter. If he's in, to me, there are 4 guys you can play from Brooklyn: Harden, Kyrie, DeAndre Jordan, Bruce Brown. You can get a little bit of Joe Harris, but I think the price tag is a little bit problematic. I pointed it out on the process show. He's shooting north of 50% from 3 this season on, pretty significant attempts. This dude's just not missing when it comes to basketballs. I don't even know what that means. Anyway,
but when he's shooting the basketballs, he doesn't miss, is what you're saying?
Yeah, that's one of the dumber things I've ever said. So I think that Harris is a little bit more in play on FanDuel because of the positions. But I don't have anybody separating truly from the pack. I like Harden a little bit more than I like Kyrie on both sides, but I like him either way. But they're mostly 15% guys. I prefer paying up elsewhere than Harden at 11-2 on FanDuel. I just don't think Orlando is a great matchup for thriving in fantasy. Filling out with DeAndre Jordan and Bruce Brown seems fine. Bruce Brown, particularly on DK at 4,600, that's where I would be looking at him most. I actually think Bruce Brown on DraftKings is the best play from Brooklyn relative to salary.
Somebody in the chat before we go on to our next one. The Truth. Adam has a 90s tribute behind him, bleeping bobbleheads and DVDs. Yeah, but doesn't this look good? It's a nice little, Zoom backdrop. It's like I was perfectly, planning this way back when. At some point in time, I'm going to need to use this for something other than just looking great. Here we are.
We do look great. We do look great.
Yeah, right? Start to pull some DVDs off the walls pretty soon for you. We're going to rank them.
I should give you we should talk about one random DVD that you pull out where I'm just third shelf from the bottom, 4 DVDs in. What do we got?
You want to do? I'll do it right now. You got to know where to be.
We're only on game 2. Maybe
right,
after
we're
game 5,
through.
We'll see where we're at. Yeah.
We'll do a couple more. All right. Want to remind you as well, stay up to date on the latest NBA DFS news with our Awesemo NBA Twitter handle. It's at Awesemo NBA. Our guy News God will be delivering the latest on injuries, starting lineups, minutes, limits, and more daily before lock. Make sure you give Awesemo NBA a follow and check out News God's Twitter handle as well. It's at News God, NEWZ. God, I hope you know how to spell that, _DFS. Catch Ship My Money's deep dive article, The Other Adam, which is free this season to prepare for the slate. Must read if you are playing NBA DFS tonight. I really shouldn't call him The Other Adam because he's just the better Adam. That is a guy whose stuff you want to read. Check out that content. Really, you will not go wrong with it. All right, let's take a look at Sacramento and New York. Kings first, and this, not a lot of great fantasy options here. De'Aaron Fox, who was really good the other night. That's, certainly one guy protected at 40 plus points and 5.5x value here by our own Alex Baker. But beyond that, you got a whole lot of guys in the 4s between Tyrese Halliburton. You got Buddy Hield, Rashawn Holmes, Harrison Barnes, if he even plays, obviously Bagley as well. I don't know. None of these guys I feel like are must plays.
De'Aaron Fox is pretty close. 7,700.
Well, I guess I after Fox is what I was thinking. Fox is the standout, and then after Fox is really nobody there.
So let's say this. I don't think that anybody is a must play, but I've got some guys that are borderline must plays. And okay. I think these guys are going pretty dramatically under-owned in GPPs. I think people are overreacting to getting to play Brooklyn and underreacting today to playing the Knicks. The Knicks are basically the opposite of Brooklyn. They're the worst matchup you can get in fantasy. So, Buddy Hield, 5,800 on FanDuel. Just based on the way the position is set up, I would like to have basically double the 11% that we have him projected for in GPPs. Marvin Bagley is 6K on FanDuel and 5,700 on DraftKings. He started at power forward, played 30 minutes. It seems like they're going to be going to him in that sort of role. 30 minutes of Marvin Bagley at the 4 on FanDuel is huge. We only have him projected for 9% ownership. I think it should be double that. I'd be more likely to have 30 than I would be to have 10. So I really like getting to Fox, to Hield, to Bagley, whether that's FanDuel or DraftKings. I think they're under-owned on both sites. I think Harrison Barnes is viable at 6,200 on FanDuel just because of the position, a little bit less so on DK, although, again, still I think a bit under-owned. Halliburton's price has come up dramatically, so I don't really see him as a possible option on FanDuel. On DraftKings, he's still only 6,600, so you can get there a little bit, but still probably a bit more expensive than you would like. But if they are going with this new lineup of Fox, Hield, Bagley, Barnes, Holmes, I love that option for the rest of Sacramento. We have no Hassan Whiteside. He is out for COVID protocols, so we don't have to worry about him getting any center minutes. Last time out, Marvin Bagley played every backup center minute and then also played alongside of Richaun Holmes. So they're basically just splitting all the center minutes, and Bagley's playing even more at the 4. I'm going to get to a lot of Sacramento, and I really hope that their ownership stays low. I think this could be a really nice spot to get different today.
Well, speaking of getting different, let's get different for a second before we go to the other side of this game. A super chat from Chief Big Wave. Love all the super chats this morning, guys. Keep those coming. Really appreciate it. Question. So if I use more unique players, it makes my lineup less different, right? Or how does that work? Sorry for interrupting.
The unique player setting in Fantasy Cruncher is simply this. Let's say that you generate your first lineup. If you have unique set to 1, the next lineup that is generated, if you don't have any other settings like exposure settings or anything, it's just 100%, no randomness, whatever. The next lineup that it will make will change by default 1 player or more. If you set it to 2 uniques, it will force you to have 2 different players than the previous lineup that has been generated. If you set uniques to 3, it will force you to have 3 different unique players. And as you go down the line, that is how it continues. It will continually make each lineup have to be at least 2 or 3 players different than every other lineup that had been generated previously to that.
So rewind, listen to that again in slow motion, take notes, and all of the important information will be deduced from there. For the Knicks, Julius Randle, great spot. Derrick Rose, phenomenal spot. Emmanuel Quickley, same deal. These guys, Randle aside, but the 2 guards projected for roughly 7x value by Awesemo himself. RJ Barrett right around 5. Nerlens Noel, Alec Burks, a couple of pay down options. I don't know how much you want to invest yourself, guy with a Gotham hat, into this Knicks game, but there are some compelling plays.
I'm laughing now. Josh is wearing a Gotham hat with a Superman shirt. That's not right. Crossing over a little bit. So
pudding.
I'm back. Okay. So for the Knicks, this one's huge. We need to know the starting lineup, but we have to expect Quickley and Rose to be playing some pretty sizable minutes. Right now, my anticipation is that Quickley starts, Rose comes off the bench, they both close. I think 28 minutes for Derrick Rose seems reasonable, but Tibbs could run him out significantly longer. I also don't think it matters all that much. He's 4,600 on DraftKings. You're just playing a bunch of Rose one way or the other. On FanDuel, he's already priced up at 5,700, so he's going to need every one of those minutes to be a really good play instead of just the average play that I think he is. Quickley, on the other hand, though, I also gave 28 minutes. Emmanuel Quickley is my favorite play on the slate, FanDuel and DraftKings, not particularly close in that matter. And if he's starting, I think that he can play north of 28 minutes. We only have him at like 20% ownership. That number is going to be significantly higher as we get closer to lock. Again, I have him showing up in the optimal lineup on FanDuel 47% of the time. On DraftKings, because there is no value on this slate, 63% of the time. Emmanuel Quickley is without question, because Elfrid Payton is out, the best play on the slate. You have to get to Derrick Rose. I think that Julius Randle on FanDuel at 8,900 at the power forward spot should be in like 25% of your lineups or more. He's already picking up that sort of ownership. RJ Barrett, not really getting a huge benefit with Payton out. He's still like a 10% guy. One guy you should keep your eye on, though. Taj Gibson closed this most recent game for the Knicks. Nerlens Noel did not see the floor in the 4th. They left Taj Gibson out there to close with the rest of the relevant starters plus Derrick Rose. if that is a thing that can happen moving forward, you have to be a little bit pessimistic about Nerlens Noel's minutes and a little bit more optimistic about Taj Gibson's minutes in particular. It's not like Taj Gibson's a great performer, but he is only 3,200 today and the flat minimum on FanDuel. If he can continue to get the closing minutes, he's going to be mispriced until people catch it.
Marco says Quickly is the guy that you eat the chalk no matter the ownership.
Yes, 100%.
Someone asked about Quickly versus Terrence Ross as just a pivot option, contrarian play over, or no, I'm sorry, not Terrence Ross, over Derrick Rose. Andrew said Quickly the contrarian play. What do you think?
So on DraftKings, I think you should just be playing both of them pretty aggressively. I think they're both fantastic plays. You shouldn't be pivoting from one to the other because they're both great. On FanDuel, where Quickly's 4,600 and Rose is 5,700, I don't think the ownership disparity is going to be enough that you want to make that swap. And Derrick Rose's $5,700 price tag is just not all that conducive to it. I have no problem playing them together. I would not be trying to swap off one to the other.
Some people want to know why and what that is behind you that says Klopp.
It's a picture of, wrong side. It's a picture of Jurgen Klopp, the manager of Liverpool.
There you go. Which should be framed on one's wall behind them.
Agreed.
Keep getting your questions in no matter what the hell they have to do with. We appreciate the amount of, I can't begin to keep up with the amount of Superman debating that is happening in the chat as inspired by these t-shirts, by the way. Do you have a favorite superhero? It feels like that needs to be asked at this point.
I don't.
So
I mean, I guess
you have the shirt.
I guess Christian Bale, Batman, but I really don't have any.
So you're not you could default to Batman if you want, just because of Christian Bale. I don't know how you feel.
If there were a new Batman movie that came,
I mean,
like, who's the new Batman? Robert Pattinson? I'll never even see that. Although I liked him in Tenet.
He doesn't look bad in the trailer. I'll say that much. I don't know if you or that little teaser. Well, now
Bale is the only Batman that matters to me, and it's certainly not Ben Affleck.
The only Batman. No,
that's fine. Keaton is too is fine for me.
Yeah. All right. Well, fine. Then we can continue to get along and proceed with this show. We have about 20 minutes to work with, few games to get to as well. Let's go to the Clippers and Grizzlies here. So for LA, normally we'd be talking up Kawhi Leonard and Paul George.
We got to hit on. No, wait, we already did Sacramento. My bad. Ignore me.
No, we did that. We're good. Don't worry. I'm keeping just pristine notes in front of me of at least making sure that we talk about the teams themselves. And then at that point in time, it's all on you. I just, if people haven't picked up the formula of this show yet, here it is. Josh, what do you think of the Clippers tonight? Here's a good play you might want to think about. You in on that? No? All right. Well, tell me. Let's do Memphis. Let's go to the Memphis side, and then we'll go to the next game.
I gotcha. So my bad.
Yeah. No, you're great. On the Clippers, Leonard, George, at least right now, I don't love these guys tonight, or at least on DraftKings. Maybe on FanDuel, obviously, you can make a case for Kawhi like you were talking about before. But I don't know. Anybody on this team in general stand out to you?
Not on DraftKings. Kawhi Leonard showing up in the optimal about 11% of the time. And I actually think that I'm kind of high on Kawhi today. So that's a testament to how little I have interest in the Clippers on DraftKings. I don't really see anybody else as anything other than lineup filler at best. On FanDuel, though, Kawhi is 9,700 because you have to roster two people at every position. I actually think he's going a bit under-owned. I see him as a mild pay up to be a bit contrarian option, especially against Memphis. I don't really have any issue with the matchup for the Clips. Big favorites in this one, too. I had Kawhi showing up in the optimal about 19% of the time. He's playing big minutes. He's probably one of the 5 best players in the NBA, and he's been playing like it this year. It's kind of getting slept on how good he has actually been. 11% ownership is totally fine by me. Paul George actually is at 16% ownership on FanDuel. I would rather just have less Paul George and funnel it all to Kawhi. But after that, I don't really want to roster anything from the Clippers. Not a fan today.
And to think some people thought, don't fire Doc Rivers. The Clips won't be any good. Well, it turns out if you have the right superstars and coach in place, then yeah, things can go okay.
Yeah, you'll be fine if you have Kawhi and George. You'll be fine.
Yeah, I'd say so. All right. Memphis side. So Ja Morant is right there at the top. Not that he's the best player or anything like that on the slate, but he is in a good spot and he is relatively cheap, $7,400 on DK. Dylan Brooks is in a good spot, very similar projection in terms of value, and obviously a couple grand cheaper. I don't think you need to get a Valanciunas and Anderson, a Brooks, or rather Clark or Winslow, guys like that in there, but you can certainly make a case for Morant and Brooks right now.
I think Memphis is the worst team on the slate today.
Okay.
Ja Morant is in double digits in ownership, 13.5% on FanDuel. He's the only guy projected for double digits on either FanDuel or DK, which is a pretty interesting thing to see on a 6-game slate. I totally agree with it. Morant on FanDuel is the only guy that got to double digits for me. No one else crested that number. They're basically fully healthy outside of Jaren Jackson being back. Justice Winslow is now part of this rotation. They've got this Grayson Allen, Desmond Bane, DeAnthony Melton trio that they have to hash through while still getting Justice Winslow back in the mix. Gorgie Jang isn't even playing any longer. These guys are priced up from a time where where some of these guys were out, and now it's sort of the opposite effect. Everybody is back, and I don't really know which direction these minutes are going. I see very little exposure to anything of Memphis other than full-on contrarian flyers. So maybe Joe Val, maybe Dylan Brooks, maybe Brandon Clark. But to me, the only guy that I can confidently say I will have in, let's say, more than 8% of my lineups is Ja Morant. I'm ignoring Memphis today.
Podcast Network, folks, you want to know about it if you don't already. If you're not able to watch your favorite Awesemo shows on YouTube, that's all right. Just keep in mind, you don't even need to watch us live. You can watch on delay while it's still relevant, like obviously this show is available on demand. But if you prefer a podcast network, that's why we've got it. Almost all the Awesemo YouTube shows are available through the Awesemo Podcast Network, a podcast for every sport and available on every major platform as well. Head on over to awesemo.com/podcast and check out the latest. And once you're there, drop a 5-star rating and review. You can use your Twitter handle or your Awesemo username included. And you have the opportunity to win a free week of Awesemo Plus, which is very cool. We'll be giving away these free Awesemo Plus weekly passes every week to the person who submits our favorite review. I'm not the one reading those, so don't try and impress me or butter up to me. Maybe Josh is, I don't know. But either way, we appreciate you. Leave those impressive reviews, and you could be a winner if you're not already just by watching this show in the first place.
Yeah, it's not me, by the way.
All right, don't butter him up either. All you guys in the super chats.
Not going to get you anywhere.
Washington and Denver, as we got a couple of games remaining. We begin with the Wizards, the former Bullets. Russell Westbrook, who you were slandering earlier, is still in a great spot tonight, as is Bradley Beal. You could pay down. You got some value here. Not a lot of it at the bottom, I guess, but it's pretty much top heavy with the Wizards and Westbrook and Beal. Which one do you like more than the other, and could you make an argument to play both?
I cannot make an argument to play both. Well, on a 6-game, I mean, like, sure, it could show up, but it's not something that I really like. I would probably want to make sure that I had like Jamal Murray coming back too, at the least. I prefer Russell Westbrook to Beal on FanDuel, where he's $600 cheaper. I prefer Bradley Beal to Russell Westbrook on DraftKings, where Beal is $300 cheaper. So I don't truly prefer either one of those guys. They are just passable options to me. I don't think that they stand out in any sort of way. They're just guys that I would end up having 10 to 15% of. I don't think either guy showed up in the top 10 of either one of the contenders videos. I don't see much that we can really talk about outside of, if Bertans doesn't play, I think that we could look at minimum salary Denny. He's $3,500 on FanDuel, so that's the flat minimum. He's $3,100 on DraftKings. I think we'd see his minutes go back up to that like 26, 27, 28 range if we don't get Bertans. And if that's the case, I think that opens up at least a little bit of value that we haven't had for the slate. Otherwise, I don't have much interest in Washington. Only Westbrook and Beal on FanDuel and Beal on DraftKings made it over 10% likelihood of being in the optimal. It's just not a spot unless we get some word that we've got at least one injury here.
As people continue to still talk about Superman in the chat, by the way, sorry, this one caught my eye. It's not at all related to what we're talking about. Antoine says, that clown dude, the funniest villain. Is he talking about the Joker?
Probably, unless he like Pennywise, and he's just maybe? Like really confused. I've
just never heard the Joker referred to as that clown dude, which I really
now that one's the Riddler.
Maybe it's the guy the Jim Carrey with all the question marks all over the. All right, for Washington, or rather for Denver, pardon me. So look, there's value all over the place with this team, and obviously Joker is at the top, and he's 6x projected for right around 65 fantasy points. Dude's an absolute beast in a monster spot, and he's priced over 10K. Shouldn't surprise you. You get beyond and below Jokic, though, and you've got Barton, Monte Morris, you have Campazzo, who continues to be in a good spot. And I saved this one for last because even though, the projections will tell you he's in a great spot, Michael Porter Jr., maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me. I never roster this guy on a good day, even when it says I should. I don't like him. I don't trust him. It's starting to get personal between Michael Porter Jr. and I.
Michael Porter Jr. is the best play on Denver today. Bar none. Not close.
And that's exactly what I'm saying. Great. Play him and watch him go for 10 points.
Yeah, you got to play everybody from Denver today. They are unquestionably the best option on the slate. Playing Washington is as good as it gets. Huge pace up spot. They gain 4 possessions over their average. That is as big of a boost as Denver can take. And it's not like Washington is trotting out a fantastic defense either. So unquestionably, Nikola Jokic looks great. I think he is a bit over-owned. I do like the idea in GPPs of pivoting some Jokic to Embiid, but let's be clear here. Jokic looks fantastic. Jamal Murray, 6% owned on FanDuel, 3% owned on DraftKings. Both of those numbers are wildly incorrect. I'd rather have 20 to 30%. Load up on Murray. Michael Porter Jr. is already properly owned, 26% on DK, 40% on FanDuel. And I agree with it totally. The price tag works. The position works. This guy plays a ton of minutes right now. I think everybody needs to throw out everything that they pictured before. Right now, he played 39 and a half minutes their last time out. He played 19 in a game that everybody is still keeping in their mind, but 33 and 30, the 2 games before that. I only gave him 30 minutes, and I think that 33 to 34 is on the table. You have to play him today. He's a 1 fantasy point per minute guy on a slate with very little value. You can squeeze it out of the mid tier, but we're not done yet. Will Barton should be like 25% owned on FanDuel, probably something in the 20% range on DraftKings. Monte Morris, if he gets another start and plays 30 to 34 minutes, should probably be in 15 to 20% of your lineups. I think that Zeke Naji is still viable, particularly on DraftKings where he's only 3,200. Now, that viability will go away as we get more news. He only shows up in this sort of potentially optimal range because there are no other guys to really pay down with. Anybody that opens up value will make Zeke Naji go away, but I don't mind taking that sort of flyer, particularly against Washington. If this game gets out of hand, I would expect Naji to be able to pick up some of the late blowout run. You can go to Campazzo too. I mean, there are 7 legitimate options on Denver today. 4 or 5 of them are very heavy in concentration for me. I love Denver, the number 1 team on this slate, not even close to anyone else.
Listen, if Porter goes off, guys, good for you. But if he doesn't, I don't want to hear from you. You were warned. You were warned.
He's going to be one of the 3 most popular plays of the day today, and he should be.
What's Joker's projected ownership? A couple people have asked in the chat.
29% on FanDuel, 34% on DraftKings. Both of those numbers I feel are slightly too high, but still clearly very much in play.
Important question from Chef Big Wave here. I'm going to just leave this to you. Every morning at this time, my knees fall asleep. Do you have any insight? This is a super chat, which is why I read it to you.
I assume that you're just sitting on the crapper too long, at which point stand up earlier, stretch a little bit, and then sit back down again. Get the circulation.
Get yourself
going.
A squatty potty. Elevate those knees a little bit.
I had one. I didn't like it. It's uncomfortable.
Wasn't for you?
No.
They say it's a much healthier way to poop.
So they claim.
That's all the studies will tell you. El Negro Loco, are Adam and Josh really wearing Superman shirts? You've come to the right place.
Yeah. It's good.
It is good. Feels real good. Couple of regular Cam Newtons around here. Newton. New Orleans and Milwaukee, our final game of this 6-game slate. So first for the Pelicans, you have Zion Williamson, who is not as good a play, at least projected, as Brandon Ingram, who you might want to consider. Josh Hart is in a good spot as well. You could make a case for Alonzo Ball, for Steven Adams if he plays Eric Bledsoe, but it would seem Ingram and Hart sit at the top of the list. What do you think?
They kind of always do. Well, it depends on what we're really looking for here, and it depends on the site. So Zion on FanDuel, again, because you have to roster 2 power forwards, these guys will naturally rise in their valuability. I guess we can use that as a word. So I have Zion showing up in the optimal 21% of the time. I think Brandon Ingram is a tad under-owned right now, only 5% on FanDuel. I think Lonzo's a tad under-owned on FanDuel, but only Zion is a guy that, to me, is separating from the pack. On DraftKings, it's a little bit different. Since you don't have to roster 2 people at every position, Zion's value is a little bit lower. I actually only have Josh Hart with double-digit odds of being in the optimal on DK, but he's already picking up 10% ownership.
Carbs.
There it is.
Fried rice.
I'm back.
There he is.
It's it's the most annoying thing in the world. So Zion, Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, Josh Hart. I think in GPPs you should have about 10% of all 4 of those guys. So you're really just mixing and matching coming out of the Pelicans. I don't really see anybody showing up from New Orleans as a quality value outside of Zion on FanDuel specifically.
All right. One more team to get to here, and any questions you guys have, get them in. Obviously, saving one of the best for last. Not only teams, but players. Giannis Antetokounmpo leading the way for the Bucks, projected at 60-plus fantasy points. 5.5 is his projected value. But beneath him, I mean, this is a game that you may, or at least a team, you may very well consider stacking between Chris Middleton. Dante DiVincenzo is in a solid spot and priced up to 5K, though. Brook Lopez, you don't want to ignore. You could pay down. Bryn Forbes is, obviously, if he starts again, is another guy you want to think about. There is, sort of like Denver, right? There are guys all over the place. I just don't know how you feel, so much so as far as stacking.
So Giannis is my favorite player on the slate. If we're paying up, I'm happy to get there. I don't think that it's all that difficult, even without the true value on the slate. And I think it'll get easier as the day goes on. So Giannis is my number 1 pay up option. I will be getting to my boy Chris Middleton on FanDuel. I have him about 20% likely to be in the optimal. He's only 7,600. He's actually quite a bit more expensive on DraftKings, so I'm a little bit more muted there. We have DJ Augustine as a really nice value play on FanDuel. I think that's going a bit overrepresented. I think Brook Lopez looks interesting on FanDuel where he's not getting ownership. So those guys are kind of inverse plays today. I think DiVincenzo, Lopez, and Augustine are all basically 10 to 15 percenters on DraftKings. But oddly enough, that ownership is already there, including DJ Augustine at 4,100 on DK, projected for 19% ownership. Not entirely sure I want to have that much DJ Augustine in my life, but I understand why it's happening. I think that ownership goes away as we get more news. I don't have a ton of interest in Bobby Portis or Pat Connaughton, but they are guys that you can get to on DraftKings. The key piece for me is Giannis, and then filler, at least from a DraftKings perspective, with Middleton, DiVincenzo, Brook Lopez, and Augustine. But nothing really separating themselves outside of Giannis.
We've got a few minutes left to go. Maybe we'll sprinkle in a little movie talk at the very end. But for now, Oddsshopper, folks, do not make a bet without shopping for the best odds. Betting lines, they change by the minute. They can vary greatly depending on which book that you're using, obviously, which is why it is so important to use the Awesemo Oddsshopper tool to find the best line available to you on the game that you are betting on and give you the edge that you need to beat the house. So head on over to Awesemo's website, or just go to oddshopper.awesemo.com, whatever's easiest for you. And we compile the very best bets available every single night, updated in real time. So, if you're going to make a bet right now, just be mindful, obviously, of what things look like a little bit later on in the day. Sign up for free today. Track your bets and receive alerts when lines move. How about some player props here? As, some of the guys that are in play, someone that you shouted out earlier, and he's, it's not the Lucas and the Embiids and the, guys like that, the De'Aaron Foxes even, or Julius Randles. How about Seth Curry? You were high on the potential of him doing something for the Sixers tonight against the Mavs. He has, looks like the pretty consistent over-under points-wise. You got over 11.5. Let's call it minus 115 or so. It really ranges depending on the book. And the under is 13.5, and that's a pretty consistent minus 115 as well. What do you think about him?
I'm going over as of right now. I have him projected for about 14.5 points, 14.9 in particular. So if I were taking any piece of that action, I would be taking the over on Seth Curry. But I do think that I am heavier on Seth Curry than the industry is right now. But that's okay. That's where I want to be. Come join me on the money train.
How about Nick Vucevic? You got 26.5 is the over-under. Consistent, no matter the book you're looking at. Minus 110-ish on the over, minus 115-ish on the under.
That's a pass for me. I have him at 26.8, so I don't really see enough value there to want to go either direction. I think they made a proper line today.
All right. Game totals. Let's see. You got a lot of high-scoring games tonight on the slate. Pretty much all of them, for that matter. I mean, they're all in the 220s and above. But Pelicans and Bucks in particular. Over is 241.5 to 243, depending on the book. And then the under right around 243, 242.5. You know, what are you thinking? Are we going to get the kind of offense we're expecting here?
If I were taking anything here, I think that I would skew a little bit to the under. I think that Milwaukee's defense is uniquely set up to slow down the Pelicans just because of Zion and Adams. If Adams wasn't there, I think it could be a little bit different. Milwaukee is generally okay with giving up some threes above the break, and New Orleans just doesn't have the shooting to really take advantage of that. So I think it would take an outlier shooting day for the Pels to soar over in this spot. So I would actually like going under the 240 total on Pels Bucks.
Hit that like button, guys. About 800 people watching with you. A couple more minutes, and we are sitting just below 200 likes. So smash away. Hit the like, hit the subscribe button. It is appreciated. So when you're looking at Oddsshopper, whether it's, you know, point spread, game totals, money lines, player props, whatever it may be, do you have a favorite bet tonight or one that you're watching throughout the day?
I haven't really looked through anything. My mornings don't, generally speaking, allow me a lot of time to figure out what's going on. It's more of an afternoon event, but I'm going to pull it up right now. I've got Oddsshopper up. I'm looking at some of the points props. I'm looking at the top points scorer for the day. We've got the FanDuel odds as well at Oddsshopper, but you could find the best lines for any book, really. Let me just refresh this. So top point score, the favorite right now is Joel Embiid, minus 115. Luka is plus 105. That is a very interesting. I'm surprised to see it like that. So I have Giannis as the top point scorer on the slate right now. I have Bradley Beal second. I have Embiid over Luka by a full point. So I think that there's a little bit more value in Embiid in comparison to the Luka Doncic line. That would be a spot that I would be looking at. But if you can find Giannis at a decent number, I do think, well, actually, if you can find Bradley Beal at a decent number today, I think he's a guy that might go a little bit underrepresented in some props today.
Okay. So keep an eye on it, folks. So before we get out of here then, is there a, did you want to hit the wall? Is there a something or other that you wanted to grab?
Let's do it. Let's do it. I will just give my thoughts on whatever one you find. So, all right, okay. I'm going to look
I hope it's one that you've heard of at the very least.
Okay, so I'm going to look at the second shelf from the left.
All right, I've had pants on, so that's good news today.
It doesn't look like there's a bobblehead or anything in the top level of that. It's next to the one that seems to be like five over Celtics here? Guys. So I see 5 Celtics bobbleheads at the top. I want the one on the left of that, and then go down 3 spots, one down and again, and give me the right there. Give me the 6th DVD in from the right.
From the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay.
I do this same game at the bars, but making
American
the
Pie.
bar. Oh, fantastic!
The original American Pie.
Incredible piece of cinema. The soundtrack for that movie is fantastic. Lonnie Rose song at the end when Ox is sitting on the deck. Oh man, it's so good. Took me so long to find that on Napster back in the day. Yeah, that's a throwback for you guys. I love it. So we do that same sort of game. We do that same sort of game with liquor at the bar. You tell the bartender, I want 11 and 22, count from the left and then the right. And you end up with, at my engagement party, few years back at this point, I ended up with a shot of half Johnny Walker, half tequila. Terrible.
Nice.
Terrible.
Don't want any part of that.
Fantastic DVD though. That's as good as it gets.
Yeah, it's a good, solid first pull. We get to do this every Thursday. Maybe we'll start a show and end a show. Be part of our little gimmick here. Why not?
I love it.
Everybody needs one. I'm not going to go out and get a hat with a dollar sign on it. So we all need to, find something else to do. All right. Thanks to everybody for watching with us. We appreciate you, man. Weekend's coming up. So here's what you got in store for you the rest of the day here on the Awesemo YouTube page. NHL strategy show in about 4 hours, 3 p.m. Eastern. The tip-off NBA talk resumes at 4, NBA deeper dive at 5, NBA live before lock at 6, NBA late slate live before lock at 8, and then the MMA strategy show begins just after 9. So there is a lot happening on the Awesemo YouTube page today. You do not want to miss a single second of it. But we want to thank our guy, Jordan, obviously producing and keeping all of you, in line in the chat, preventing anyone from getting unruly. And of course, cameras on, you can see him. Josh over here, just a couple of supermen hanging out with you. Always a pleasure, buddy.
Yeah, man. Good show. See you next Thursday.
Hey, we made it to 200 likes.
I love it.
Have a good weekend, guys. They like us. They really like us.
As they should. We're incredible.